Okay, so how does it look right now as far as Fed rates? I mean, does it look like they're going to raise interest rates some more within the year, and how much more?
Okay, very good question. In the last 50 years, you need to triumph against inflation. And normally, let's face it, para sa normal na mamamayan natin, no, every year nagkakaroon tayo ng increase ng sweldo. Diba? But that increase in salary, whether it's driven by your performance, it's really just to offset the rise of prices. Typically, yung mga normal increase is the rise of inflation. So medyo nakakaangat ka lang just to highlight the prices. But in the situation today, interest rates must go higher than inflation so that inflation can attract, so that people will be attracted to save money than spend. Diba? You put your money in the bank so that you feel na, I'm saving money than spending it. The problem today is that we're confronted by two things. The first is the reopening of the economy. Diba? The businesses have reopened and tulad nating lahat gusto natin makalabas. Diba? Everybody slowly going up trying to normalize themselves. That's creating a lot of demand. People go out to the malls kahit hirap sila, the spending is there kasi gusto nila to act normal. On the other hand,
and that's driving up inflation. Yes.
That's initially driving inflation, but because we're importing practically everything, with the peso depreciating by almost 15% since start of the year, malaki na yung cost natin. Diba? So right now, inflation's at 6.3%. In the US, it's at 8.5%. So when you look at the Philippine interest rate, the central bank is at 4.25% versus an inflation of 6.3%. So kailangan tumaas. Otherwise, if you're just investing at 4.3%, at 4.25%, talo ka. So kailangan tumaas lalo yung interest rate beyond 6% so that you will gain. So that means there's still a lot of pressure for domestic interest rates to rise to at least 5.75 so that we will trump inflation. In the US, malayo yung pupuntahan niya kasi nasa 3.25 lang yung overnight rate niya, ang inflation niya 8.4. So kailangan aggressively, mas mabilis yung pagtaas niya so that people will, inflation will slow down. That's the challenge. So that's why the Fed...
So malayo-layo pa pala itatakbo ng dollar, no? Ng interest rates.
Okay, let me just give you a good parameter. Right now, the dollar yen's between 143. The dollar index is around 113. So these are benchmarks, no? So nakikita ko na magpipik yung dollar when the dollar index is at 120. The dollar yen or the Japanese yen, which is at 143, should go at least 150. So yung sinasabi ni Representative Salceda, most likely yung 65 to 68 could eventually materialize. But ako, in the near term, which is probably between now and year-end, we could probably hit 6180 or 6190 before we eventually get to see some adjustments, no? So hopefully the remittances will still come. But the sad part about our remittances is, number one, everybody, yung mga OFW, kung nagpapadala ng $300 worth, yung eksakto lang. So ngayon, hindi na 300 padadala niya, konti na lang. Less than 300. Kasi the value has become bigger. Diba?
Well, most analysts are expecting about the US Fed to continue raising interest rates, ano? At sinabi ng Bangko Sentral, although we've had several major interest rate increases as well, sinabi na ng Bangko Sentral they're not going to match what the US Fed is doing. So although we are expecting more interest rate hikes before the year ends, ano? So what else can we do? By way of sinabi ni Congressman Salceda, dapat daw we have to strengthen, we have to implement long-term reforms. Ano ba yung pwedeng gawin? Kasi
Okay.
in the near term, yan lang ang magagawa natin eh. Yung
Okay.
balance, the needs, interest rate, inflation. Eh, nagre-reklamo na rin yung mga umuutang na mga negosyante. Paano naman daw sila yung mga interest rate na yan? But in the meantime, what else can be done?
Okay, very good question. I think one thing that we have to remember are what the previous administration has done before they stepped down. So they were able to do a lot of structural reforms, such as number one, revision of the Public Services Act, ease of doing business. So anything to do with competitiveness, we've improved, including create. So now that the peso has depreciated, in the eyes of investors, magandang tingnan ng Pilipinas, mura tayo. In the last 8 months, as of August of this year, we've seen one of the major contributors in the second quarter is the tourism sector. So at that time, we've actually seen tourists coming to the Philippines, no? So number one na napupunta dito yung mga Filipinos who are living overseas. Hindi na sila considered na Pilipino eh. They might have US citizens, but now, unlike before the pandemic, they were living with relatives. Ngayon, they practically live in hotels. No? So talagang it generated a lot of activity. Second, the South Koreans are back. So tourism is actually a good place for the Philippines today. So that's one. Second, sinabi ni Congressman Salceda is the foreign direct investments. The weaker peso eventually is a good opportunity for us to attract this type of investments. The problem is we continue to tell them to go to our PEZA zone. You need to understand that matataas yung presyo ng bilihin ngayon. We need to attract companies to manufacture in the Philippines, but not in the PEZA zone. Kasi sa PEZA zone, pa-export yan eh. It doesn't benefit us. We attract them to come here because you want them to take advantage of the more than 100 million Filipinos. The demographic age of Filipinos are around 26.5. So sila yung malaki yung potential income capacity to spend. Now that Filipinos are more international centric, meaning people are more global in trying to recognize brands. People will buy more imported products. But if these products will be manufactured here, it will be cheaper. So that should benefit our consumers. It will create jobs and take advantage of our demographic dividend. Dapat ganyan ang gawin ng gobyerno so that we're able to help them not only create jobs, it will also create lower prices. So these are the things that we should do. So basically, these investors are waiting for one is driven by revitalizing infrastructure. So ano yung magiging state ng build back better or it's a build more, whatever they call it for the infrastructure. The second is optimizing these opportunities so that we're catering to one which is being offered by the DTI is the IT BPO, the call center business. Because they're the ones benefiting. That's why the finance department has extended the work from home privileges, di ba? Kasi eto, mura ngayon mag-operate dito sa Philippines with the weaker peso. Now, one thing that makes it good for the Filipino is that nandyan yung heart ng Filipino, nandyan yung magandang EQ natin, di ba? Lalo na yung call center or customer service, di ba? You talk to our people, they'll be very polite to tell you, sir, magbayad po kayo ng utang nyo, pero kahit minimum, nakatawa pa sila. As long as you're able to pay. Customer service, they're very patient. Kahit nagagalit ka na sa kanila, they're there listening to you. That makes at close to $30 billion coming into the country.